Does the world need another jacket? The quick answer is no. The fashion industry is built on secrecy. I think that's why we sit with the crisis that we do in the industry, because we actually don't know where it comes from. We don't know who made it. We won't be able to export our garments to Europe in the next 2 years if you can't track the origin of things. We ask ourselves the question, what do we want to leave behind? What is our legacy? I think that's the reason we keep disposing of cheap fashion, because you put it on, it's a cute look, but you take it off again and you can't understand why. And I think it's the energy of things. The garment has the power to really uplift you and to put you in a great spirit.
For those people that don't know you, what is it that you do and what makes your work stand out in this noisy world of fashion that we're living in?
Hi, Justice. I'm Lezanne Viviers from Viviers Studio. We are based in Johannesburg. We are a clothing brand, but I think Viviers is much more than clothing in itself. It's really a space for collaboration. It's really an umbrella space where I could practice all my hobbies and do all my experiments of things that I find interesting and that I'm curious about in the world.
I love that. You're a very creative person. Everything you do is incredibly original. So,
Thank you.
Have you always been a creative? What was creativity like for you growing up?
I have a great mom. She exposed me to, everything from little art classes to silkscreen painting, ceramics, all the cute things that a child can learn in terms of the creative world. I think as a child, if you have the freedom to play and you're exposed to nature and you're in an environment where you're just free to play in nature, I think you stimulate your creativity. I think every person has it in them. I think often it's more about what you've been exposed to. Also, if you were allowed to play, because I think Albert Einstein said play is the highest form of research. And I think, so the short answer is yes. I have always played.
I read that a lot of your work is inspired by experimentation. So how do you bring experimentation into the design process?
That's the starting point. So with our process, we usually start with a concept. It's something that I feel, something that I write. It takes me a couple of months. And then, you give birth to the concept by starting your first experiments. It very much starts with textile experiments. So working with South African artisans and then creating new textiles. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, if you start weaving, for example, or knitting, and you've got no idea what the technical parameters are, you often experiment and you make a lot of mistakes. Things are too heavy, things are too light, things end up being crooked. But I think the beauty is also in those mistakes, in those experiments where you start something from scratch that you've never known before. And through that, you're almost challenging the process because you don't have a back end and theory as to how it should be. So that's very much, I think, a starting point with collections is what can we do new? Is it jewelry making? Is it paper making? Is it working with architects? And then with every new project, I always make sure with each collection there's like a new thing that we're exploring because that keeps me sane.
So you're speaking of first principles in terms of testing, experimenting, and rediscovering. I think a lot of your clothes are original, and through that process of discovery, you manage to reinvent a medium in a way. So have you found that with some materials you're able to create a design that's hasn't been seen before?
I think through experimentation, that is hopefully the result. But you make a lot of mistakes, and it costs a lot of money to get to that point. I think in our studio, like the rule is, or the approach is that we respect every material equally. So we don't see a silk different from a nylon in terms of how much time and effort and love you put into that material. And I think that's something that often lacks in the industry, is someone would use a nylon, which can give you very beautiful sculptural kind of shapes and silhouettes in a way that they almost see it as like cheap trash. So the way that they would work with it is in a cheap, trashy way. Whereas if you respect all the materials that you bring into your space equally, and you treat it with couture kind of approaches, it does also allow you to use fabrics that are not necessarily always chosen. You know, even if we were to pick up some plastic bags on the street, the way that we would bring them in and when we work with them creating garments would really be a couture approach. And I think through that, using these different materials that are not necessarily always used in a specific way, you do end up with something new.
You once told me your father worked in a galvanizing factory, and your pre-fall 2022 collection is called Galvanized. You're wearing galvanized clothes. We're in a galvanized building. What is this obsession?
Back to your childhood, right? I grew up with my father and his three partners starting a galvanizing factory. And we were very young, like 6, 7 years old. And over weekends, as a family, we had to go and sleep in the factory because we were the security. And it was such a magical world because we put on like orange overalls or dark green overalls, got on a forklift, drove around through all these galvanized metals. And I think it's really, like again, going back to how you grow up and that imprint that's left in your subconscious mind. That time that we spend in the factory and like looking at like the big baths with all this liquid metal and like how the machinery enters the metal and how it comes out pristine and like the dripping of liquid metal, it must have left some kind of an impression on me. Because if I think also a lot of our clothes in our collection, so there's always metallics, there's this idea of alchemy, how can you take one metal and change it into something else? So there's always this kind of fluidity between liquid gold and liquid silver. And then there's this harsh kind of tomboy side of me that comes from, driving the forklift and having like utility hats and like utility buckles. And those details are very much a part of the brand today.
What strikes me about metallics, liquid metal, alchemy, forging, all these ideas is that the way fabrics fall, the way silks move, things like this, it animates the garments. Is that something that you consciously do?
I think Alexander McQueen, he said he always designed from the side and the profile of a look instead of from the front or from the back, because you see that silhouette and you see the movement of garments from the side so clearly. And it's something that resonates with me. Of course, a body move, we never still. And with that, your garment moves and everything comes to life. So when you think of runway shows, that is definitely something that you take into consideration, is how does the fabric move? And with liquid, foily, reflective materials, you have even more movement because it's enhanced by the reflection and the reflection of light. So it's definitely something that excites me.
You worked for Marianne Fassler for a long time. What did she teach you? What's the most important thing that she taught you?
So I was with Marianne for 8 years. I started off as a student, interning, and then after 4 years, I worked myself up. And she was very generous to allow me to be the creative director for the last 4 years, where I learned really everything. Firstly, I learned what it's like to deal with clients, with bespoke clients, and making something for someone, and the relationship that you have with clients. Marianne's also the one that taught me that you don't throw your little pieces of fabric away, that all the scraps are something that you can reuse, reinterpret. It's a commodity. It's something special. It's a treasure. It's not something that you discard of. But I really learned the operations of a couture studio, because I think most of us who studied fashion, you're not exposed to that. There are few couture studios left in South Africa or in the world. So most students and designers are more exposed to doing wholesale, working with factories, working with CMTs. And it's a privilege to have learned in a couture studio what it means to hands-on make something, and, trial and error by learning also when you're fitting a client. If a pant doesn't fit well, how do you change it? Like you learn different bodies, different age groups. You learn about different personalities in clients, and how each person has something about themselves that they love, that they want to enhance, and something that they want to hide or mask. So it was an interesting time.
Speaking of clients, you mentioned that there is this intimate relationship when you come and have a bespoke garment made, when you come for a fitting. And you mention in some of your writing that you help to bring out the duality inside of every one of your clients. So what is that duality that you're talking about?
So I believe every soul is androgynous. I don't think we are just masculine or just feminine. I think all of us in our on a soul level is both. I think you choose what expression you want to kind of explore in this specific lifetime. But I do think we all have both masculine and feminine traits. And I think often we shy away from the one or the other. And to me, I think when I started the business, it was very much trying to figure out myself, who am I? What do I want to wear? And I realized, like, within my own personal style, there's always this masculine, feminine kind of juxtaposition and the tension between those two. Do I feel more feminine now? Do I feel more masculine? Am I too masculine and I need to balance myself with something more feminine? And I think through learning and getting to know myself better in terms of the way you express yourself with clothes, I realized, it's not just me. It's the same with each person. We all have that. That's something I like to bring into our design process, and the approach is also for people to have the freedom to explore both. It can be a very masculine jacket, but then there could be a soft little touch that is subtle. But the duality is just something we can't get away with in this earth plane of 3D matrix, right?
Exactly. The gender debate is obviously quite a big topic and controversial at times, but I really admire the way that you approach your fashion as being androgynous and allowing that freedom of a male customer to wear something that brings out maybe a part of their feminine side, or a female customer to, in a way, celebrate part of their masculinity. Do you think that goes back to your old days, as a child growing up and having that factory environment, wearing the PPE equipment? And
absolutely, I'm a proper tomboy, actually, on the one side of me, and then I felt pregnant, and then I realized I'm actually so feminine as well, being a mother. Yes, growing up again, like, I think my environment was very much diverse. Like my mom is very feminine, very soft, very nurturing and caring. And then, growing up also in a factory environment where it's very harsh, very masculine, very industrial. Both of those sides of me were kind of activated. And now it's a matter of figuring out, balancing who you are at a specific point in time, because I think it changes day to day.
Wow. Have you had some customers wearing your clothes that have enabled them to transition, or maybe just to cross that threshold of male and female? Has that ever happened?
We have many, many clients that are non-binary and clients that don't specifically want to adhere to being male or female. But I think there's something different between being a man and a woman and masculinity and femininity. I think that's more a state of being. It's like it speaks to a soul level more than a physical level. And with clients, like I just said, I think most of us, there's not one specific day and a specific moment in time that you are the same. You might wake up in the morning feeling much more in your feminine energy, but later in the day when you need to approach a board meeting, you could, enter your masculine energy. And I think that's also something about the power of clothing, is often someone would choose something to activate a specific side of their duality for a specific purpose. That it's also empowering to choose. If I'm doing a very big presentation for a big corporate company that's more male orientated, you can wear something that's going to empower you as a woman or as a male or as a non-binary person to then, give you that activate that masculine energy, which is what you are hoping to have for that specific meeting or for that specific encounter. Or if you thinking of someone possibly getting married, they're much more in this kind of like soft and romantic and gentle spirit. And they want to enhance that for that specific moment in time. So clothing is very powerful.
You've just given me a whole other train of thought. How can clothing influence your state of mind and your state of being and activate or enhance your personality?
So there's this beautiful shonkonen spirit in Japan, which refers to the artisan, it refers to the maker. And it has two meanings. The one meaning is a technical meaning. So it means as an artisan or as an artist, you are forever striving to perfectionism. So you will take a piece of sushi and you will make it for the rest of your life. And every time you make that piece of sushi, you will try and better it from a technical perspective. At the same time, shonkonen also refers to the spirit and the approach that you do something, the love that you put into whatever that is that you're doing, the energy you put into something when you're making it. And to me, that's very much a part of our approach in the studio, is from the moment that we have fabric entering the space and we start working with it, you work with it with love and with respect. And I think all 16, 17 people in this space understands that, or that's part of the initiation into the studio, is understanding how we treat garments, how we treat materials, and then the way that you work with something. Because I believe from the start until the finish, if all of us working on something put love into the garment, the garment in the end will be loved, and the person wearing the garment will feel the love and the energy of that garment. I'm quite into animism, I really believe everything has energy, and it can be positive, it can be negative, it can be neutral. So when we create garments, it's very much about also infusing your energy into that. I think in terms of healing, if someone is maybe going through something where they need healing, I think a garment can add to that process. We also sew crystals into the garments, by the way.
Really?
And then we, you know, you can see outside, we charge them in the sun, we charge them in the moon. So I think a garment has the power to really uplift you and to put you in a great spirit. I think at the same time, a fast fashion garment made in a sweatshop where there is probably just bloodshot and tears, what do you say, like that goes into a garment. I think that's the reason we keep disposing of cheap fashion, because you put it on, it's a cute look. There's nothing wrong with the look, but you take it off again and you can't understand why. And I think it's the energy of things.
Wow. Amazing. On your website, there's this photo of you holding up a stone or an ancient object, and you're looking through it and you can see your eye. And so for me, that speaks of vision, but it also speaks of a connection to the earth. So how important is this earth connection and geology and origins to your work?
So the stone you're referring to on the website is called a Taurus stone. And the Taurus is basically, it's a round stone with a hole in it. If you turn it to the side, it looks like a donut. And I was introduced to the stone by my close friend James Barry, who's also our landscaper, and we've done many collaborations. But doing research about this stone, you know, there are many myths and many legends. Could it be an artifact, or was it something that was used in special ceremonies by African healers, people that understood that a toroidal shape is the shape in which energy moves. So if you think of your own body, and if you think of your 7 or 9 chakras, depending on how you like to think of it, the energy moves like this through your body. It enters your crown, it moves through your spine, and it exits your, what is your last chakra called? Your solar plexus.
Yes.
There. And it goes back like that. Same like Earth. If you take planet Earth and you take it as a dome, the way that the energy moves is it enters at the North Pole, moves through the center, exits at the bottom. So that kind of energy flow is called the toroidal field. And I've done a collaboration with Marlene Stain where we've really explored this movement of energy through the self, through the earth, through this toroidal stone, through everything that is alive. You know, how does Mother Gaia move through objects? The specific stone, the interesting part of that is that this stone was possibly used to transcend from one astral plane to another. So it's a portal. You know, you were referring to how it was placed over my eye. It is a portal into your soul. It's a portal into another dimension. That is what the stone can do when it's activated. So I've always been curious about these kind of magical, majestical things in life. I'm also Taurus. Now, Taurus gives you earth energy.
Yes.
I need to ground myself daily. Take your shoes off, walk on the grass, touch the tree, and breathe. So the earth connection, I mean, it's in my stars. But I think all of us, you know, if the whole world grounded themselves more in Mother Gaia and connected more with nature, we wouldn't have the issues that we have today in terms of overconsumption and not taking care of the natural resources that we find, not just in South Africa, but, you know, on our planet. I think with archaeology and with like all these ancient treasures and these animistic objects that you find, it's always something that's intrigued me. It's something that continues to fascinate me. It's the mysteries of life that we don't know yet, you know, like the pyramids that suddenly now have like these incredible electromagnetic coils that stem like, I don't know how many meters below them. Like these are the kind of things that I really, really nerdily entertain myself with, the mysteries of Earth and the things that we don't know. And I think that's kind of like archaeology. You're like forever digging and finding fossils and finding treasures, and you don't know what they are, but it's almost the search that I really, really enjoy. And then the mystical and the magical places where you find these kind of treasures.
I love that. Okay. Nice. You speak about universal future fossils. So one day when archaeologists unearth this place, Viviers Studio, what will they find?
Treasures.
Treasures.
I think, the idea of the future fossil ties back into our approach for the studio. Like, we ask ourselves the question, what do we want to leave behind? What is our legacy? If, like you're saying, 100 or 200 or 300 or 400 years from now, people are starting to dig and they look back at, what we've created. Was it something that had a beautiful social impact? Is it something that's contributed to the better of the planet or to the destruction of the planet? Was it a place of joy? The energy in the ley lines and the grid of Viviers Studio as we are situated here in Johannesburg. Like, these are all things that are part of the intention of creating future fossils with meaning, treasures for the future, but also for the present, things of value.
Lezanne, this word disclosure, what does that mean?
Truth. Transparency. Truth, transparency.
Why is that important to you?
Is it not important to you?
Fundamentally important to me. I think that's why I'm here today. I want to know the truth. What is the truth in fashion?
That's what we're about to uncover. To me, like the truth, it's almost like you can't live. It's like just being. In our studio, I've started the process in the past couple of years of finding out the truth of where things come from, disclosing how things are made, disclosing what you know about materials. It's such a fundamental thing to me. And I think I really learned that when I had a child, and I realized when we serve dinner at night, he's got no idea that a piece of chicken that serves on his plate comes from a chicken. Those kind of basic things of what is the origin of things, where does it come from? We've unlearned so much because we're not living as close to nature as we did in the past. And often there's a disconnect about the origin of things and how they are presented to you in a modern day, in a modern world. And that's something that I realized that I needed to fix for my child's sake. Take your son to the chicken so you can see, oh, this is a chicken. It lays an egg. From there, that's something that you might then eat if you choose to eat meat. And the same with fabrics and with clothing. The industry, the fashion industry, the global industry is built on secrecy. Hide, illusions and masks. And I think that's why we sit with the crisis that we do in the industry, is because we actually don't know where it comes from. We don't know who made it. We don't know what is the intention behind the garment. And for someone like myself who's a truth seeker, I decided that is a fundamental thing for me, that I will completely disclose everything in the studio. There's no secrets. Anyone can ask me any question, whether that's from how costs are done or where we buy our fabrics. You have mentorship students coming through, always thinking someone won't give me information. I'm like, I'll give you all the information that you need. I don't see anyone as competition, because I think at the end of the day, if all of us had exactly the same fabric, we'll still make completely different things. It's like giving three artists oil paint. But now because you also have oil paint, my life is threatened. No, we can all have oil paint and we can all know where to buy it and we'll make different things. So my approach in the studio has very much been of transparency, and that's from a client experience, but also in the way that we operate. Everything that we make, it's often difficult to find the origins of fabrics because there's a history of secrecy, of not saying what it really is, of not saying from which country it really comes from. So we've started a little investigation, like really phoning up suppliers. Hello, can you remember where this comes from? Do you have proof of it? Especially with older fabrics, because we make use of a lot of upcycled vintage materials, and you don't always know. Even today, if you go into any fabric shop, people don't know because there's so many people involved, from where the fabric's made, where it's then exported to and from, coming through another country, coming through another avenue until it actually ends up in South Africa, for example. And that's something that I've just completely steered away from. So you ask the question, maybe they don't have the answer, and then we'll write inside of our garments, we make notes. So it's a constant kind of research project. If we don't know where a fabric comes from, we'll write unknown, but we've asked the question. We've done the research as much as we can. So at this point in time, we don't know. At least I'll tell you that I don't know. If it is newly made fabric, I will tell you that it is from China and it is made now. It gives the client, it gives the person the at least firstly the information, and secondly then the choice to decide, do they still want to purchase the garment. So it's very much a part of our ongoing research, is disclosing what is the truth. How long does it really take to make a garment? A pair of Levi jeans takes 15 minutes. We take 4 days at least to make an item, because everything is cut by hand. Each pattern is made, then it's cut by hand. Then it goes onto the machine for 2 or 3 days. Then it goes to handwork, which is often your biggest component of making a garment. So all that information, including the tailor that made the garment, is disclosed inside of our garments. So I think also by being transparent and for everyone knowing that their name is written in the garment, it makes all of us responsible and accountable for what you're doing. Because sometimes in life, we all like to shift responsibility. Oh, it wasn't me, it was this one, was that one. But now, also you just go to the garment and you're like, oh, Kiara or Mark, you made this garment. So can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? Can you address it? So it comes with responsibility, but it also comes with celebrating each person that is involved in making a garment, and also being transparent about it, that I don't make everything myself.
I thought you were in the back busy sewing every single...
While we are having this interview, I'm slowly sewing.
So provenance, having that information, tracking it right back to the source. Something I didn't think about until right now is this amazing new tool, artificial intelligence. It's giving us a lot of information. It's opening up the channels of information. And I think most of us that wear ordinary mass-consumed clothing, we assume that there isn't inequity in the way that it's made. We assume that we hope. Or
you don't even think about it.
But we don't know, and we don't think about this. And do you think that that's changing? I mean, what advantage is there to people hiding that information and breaking that chain of information? Is it all about money?
Of course. So
of course.
We work very closely with Cape Wools and with Moe South Africa. And it's really like our relationship is to promote natural fibers from the continent, to teach people about the beautiful qualities of wool and of mohair, but also to celebrate that we have these amazing resources in our country. But one of the projects that specifically Cape Wools and Mohair is working on is working with a company from New Zealand called Oratain. And Oratain has given the tech to shepherds in the Karoo, in the field, to basically like take a little piece of fiber off the animal, so off the sheep, off the goat, cut it, put it in a little Ziploc bag, attach a GPS coordinate to this, and then that gets, this data gets logged. So the nice thing that's happening at the moment is this transformation of South African wool and mohair that can be traced back to the exact coordinate of the farm in the Karoo where the wool or the mohair comes from. So that's very exciting in terms of what AI and what the digital blockchains are adding to, the world of disclosure. With AI, I can speak for ourselves. When you start a company like any of us as creatives starting a small business, you don't have time to cut the garment and to check your emails and to do your own marketing and to make the garment and to see the client. You're multitasking with 1,000 things in one day when you start off. And then you realize, oh, okay, actually, I need to employ people to help me with all these tasks. But what is often lacked, and that's something I say to students, is get your systems in place as quickly as possible from the beginning, like your fabrics. You build up a fabric library. If you take note of what those fabrics are and you document them, and you were to have, if I were to have done that when I started, to give everything a little barcode or a code, with AI now, it would be so easy to track everything that you have, your inventory, your stock, to use that also then for data analysis, which could help you. So that's something that we're currently busy with. It's a massive project because I'm a massive fabric collector. So it's really going like to each piece of fabric, get it encoded so that it can get on a barcode as a simple inventory check. But then once you start checking how things are moving, how your garments are moving around, and your fabrics and how the fabric relates to the garment, with AI, there's incredible new tech that can give you information that you probably didn't even know you had access to. I think one of the big reasons things are really happening so rapidly also with barcoding in the fashion industry is, from my understanding, by 2027, the European laws will change. So anyone exporting to Europe or anything being imported into Europe needs to be blocked. So it needs to have a certificate of origin and a barcode that can track the full garment. So, for example, we won't be able to export our garments to Europe in the next 2 years if you can't track the origin of things. So it's not just a nice to have, it's also becoming a necessity for anyone doing business with Europe, specifically, to fully disclose and fully trace back where things come from, and then for that to be captured in a blockchain kind of system. I believe we basically just entered a new world. We've entered the golden age with the past, like 21st of March to the 31st of March. What's happening in astrology is we have finished a 26,000 year cycle. And it's very exciting for all of us alive at this point in time because we've exited the dark ages and we have now officially, since last weekend, entered the new golden age. And that means going forward, everything is transparent. The kind of energy that is there is we are moving away from the secrecy. We're moving away from the capitalistic systems where it only serves a couple of individuals in the world. And it's a time now. It's a time for the people, and it's a time for celebrating us, celebrating each other, which means celebrating the people that made your garment, whether it's in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Paris, or Viviers here in Johannesburg. I think it's the time that, everyone needs to have credit where it's due.
What are these big fashion conglomerates, multinational, global companies? I'm talking about like Zara and these huge fast fashion companies. What are they most afraid of? And do you think that we are seeing a return to the small fashion house, handmade garments, bespoke items? Or will there forever be this mass-produced clothing system?
I believe the world is splitting into two directions. You either of the small, niche, artisanal kind of mentality, or you don't care. That's the split. The split happened on the 21st of March. So it's two approaches to the world. It's like saying there will never be drugs and alcohol. I think that kind of narrative will always live on for those to choose to put their focus on that. So people that don't care, people that are exploiting others, people that are only interested in money, they will forever be there, but they will have their own world. Those of us that choose differently, that choose to respect one another, to respect nature, to work together, to unite, to collaborate, we're creating a different world for ourselves. And I really believe it's all about where you put your focus. So it's you, Justice, will have the experience in your life as to where you choose to focus on. If you don't care, and if you kind of become and allow yourself just to be distracted by the rat race and not actually being blindfolded and not thinking and not consciously choosing your life, that's a choice. But for those of us who are choosing something different, that's also a choice. And I think that's where we are at this point in time, is choosing the beauty, choosing the artisanal, choosing to understand where things come from. And there's a whole community, a massive global community forming around that. And all of us will find each other or already are in the process of working together, and that will grow. And I just choose not to, focus on the rest. We do what we believe in.
Lezanne, your clothes are very expensive. But, and there's a big but, they are works of art. I think the amount of care, the amount of attention to detail, the craft of it, the skill required to work with these materials. Some of these materials are very hard to work with. And the fact that you are sourcing vintage fabrics from, these are one-off fabrics, and it makes each garment completely unique, like a work of art. How do you quantify the value of your pieces?
Nice question. So, again, back to our approach in the studio, okay? We never try to make anything cheaper. It's never an instruction. How can we make this cheaper? How can we do it faster? Yes, maybe how can we be more efficient? But our approach is always, how can we make it more beautiful? How can we make the quality even better? And when you work with these kind of vintage fabrics, you often don't know how they will develop. Sometimes they might start like disintegrating, but that's also beautiful.
Yeah.
But then that's a step that you did not foresee. So our garments, the cost of our garments are very much based on the time that goes into it. So if you think of 17 people working here, where we spend 4 days on a garment, that the garment needs to pay for the time of 17 people working on that garment, to kind of make you understand how the costs are done. Also the materials that we choose, we really always choose the best quality that we can find. So again, if you choose the best kind of materials, we're going to spend all this time to create a garment. Why would you do it with something that has no value? that is cheap, that is going to disperse. So that's a constant part of like your sourcing and your procurement is never compromising on any step, always challenging every step and saying, how can we do it better? What can we change? Can we make it stronger? Can we make it better? So that is on the technical side, the value of the garment. When I started the brand, I asked myself, like, why are people not investing the time and the energy, the money into clothing the same way they would do when they buy a piece of art for their art collection? It was very much a starting point for me because I collect art in my own capacity. And, you know, when I buy something, like, there's an aesthetic side to it, but the narrative and the intention of what the artwork stands for and meeting the artist and the person behind that is always so important to me, because it's something I bring into my space. It's an object, it's got an energy, it's got a story. And if I put it in my space, how does it make me feel? Does it inspire me? Does it remind me of something I wanted to change about myself? Whatever the reason is that you bought an artwork. And to me, it's the same with clothing. Like, I felt like there weren't clothes that satisfied that need that I had, as to something that I want to wear on my skin and my body that is with me the whole day. It inspires me, it influences me, it can change my frequency, if you want to say it in a way like that, from maybe feeling a bit down to put something on that brightens up your day. So that was the starting point. Is I wanted to make clothing with the same intention that any artist hopefully puts into their artwork. And then the clients and the people out there collecting art that already understands that kind of approach to art, I want to approach them and include them and say to them, actually, you are wearing something on your body and that could also be art, because the concept and the love and the attention that we put into that garment is no different from a work hanging on a wall, except in its form and its functionality. So it's really, that's what adds the value to the garment, I believe, is the 17 people putting their love into something with a very specific intention.
Yeah, there's a influencer that I'm sure you've seen on TikTok that takes apart very expensive handbags, and then he asks, is it worth it? And he calculates the cost of the leather. But I know if you go to a place like Hermes and you see how they make a bag, there are a handful of people that know how to make that bag in that specific way. They've trained for many, many years. And so for me, I can understand that value. I can see fashion as an art piece. I can see it as a valuable collectible. Do you think that becomes more valuable over time?
I hope so.
As you collect
there's future fossils, you know. A fossil is more valuable later. An artist's work hopefully grew with time.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at like a traditional investment that will appreciate, if I buy a Viviers garment today, in 5 years, do you think it'll have appreciated value?
So monetarily, I can't answer you. Energetically, absolutely. I think with the clothes that we make, you know, we all grow in life. So if I look at my own cupboard, there's some things that I have since I was 10, 12 years old, because I've always collected vintage clothing. I've always collected couture. So some of those pieces I still wear today. And maybe it's the way that they were made. You know, there must be something in it energetically that's still speaking to me, and the quality, it's still lasting. So that's something that I would really, that our intention is placed into our garments, is that we are making things with the intention that it should last. We're not making things with built-in redundancy. Yes, sometimes the fabric fails us. But then we also offer a repair service. We will replace it for a client or we will fix it. And I think there's a beauty. It comes back to this kind of Japanese philosophy of kintsugi. If you have a vase, it breaks in two. It's almost more special once you've started joining it with beautiful gold. Or Japanese boro fabrics, like the little pieces of cotton that were first and foremost grown. Okay, you grew your own fiber, you grew your own plants. Then it was spun by hand. Then it was either woven or knitted. No, sorry, it was first dyed with indigo, which makes the yarn and the fiber stronger. Then it was woven on a small loom. So imagine you've put all that time into just creating the fabric, first and foremost, okay? Now you haven't even started making the garment or making whatever you want to do with this textile. Each little piece ends up being incredibly valuable. And same with us. We really buy the best fabrics that we have access to or we have things made. So nothing gets thrown away. All these small little pieces are treasured like gold. If you go to a goldsmith and they are like shaving off the gold and it's falling there, you're not going to like do this. It's precious. So that kind of, the idea that everything, the materials that you use is precious, you are reworking them, you are patching them, that's also something that's kind of started the philosophy of doing abstract scrap works and things, because each little piece is a beautiful piece of fabric. Now, I can't make a full garment out of it, but as a combined effect, united, these pieces stand as a new top. So, yes, with time, I believe the energy is there. So the energy, whether it's something that, gets passed on from any of our clients to their daughters, or even if someone owns a Viviers piece and at that point in time it doesn't speak to them anymore and they can either sell it or hand it to a friend or someone else, I think the energy of that garment will then serve the next person. I think that's how I see clothing going forward is some pieces you will keep for the rest of your life. Other pieces might be there to assist you at a point in time. It doesn't make the piece less valuable. It means you as a person have grown and this piece can now serve someone else. I'm very much about clothes being handed from one generation to another generation and not end up on a landfill. So to me, that's very important. And I will never feel offended if a client said, you know what, I didn't wear this jacket so much anymore, but I would like to, give it to my brother or someone else that is ready for that piece in their life. It's like art. I think things, as you as a person change and develop, sometimes there are certain things that are not particularly a part of who you are at that point. It doesn't mean the item's not valuable. It just means it can now change homes and then bring joy into a new home for someone else, like collecting beautiful antique furniture.
We were at Cartier once and they have a whole department that helps clients reimagine their antique jewelry for another generation. So I love this passing down of art and precious things down many generations.
It's worth passing down if it was made with integrity.
Yes.
You don't pass on fast fashion.
Yes. So we've spoken about transparency in your process. I mean, all your garments, I find, represent that as well. They are transparent. You can see the stitching. You can almost see how it's made. And we are in this building, glass house. It's a see-through house. So how important was setting up your studio in this space?
I mean, they say people with glass houses shouldn't throw stones, right? And I think it's valuable. I think it's important not to criticize other people. Like, fix yourself. Like, go inward. Fix yourself. Fix your team. Fix your own crap. That's just a comment on the glass house. But so my great friend, Roelof van Wyk, he designed this space for himself. He lived here for 8 years. He's also an artist, he's a collector, he's a curator of museums. And when he imagined the space, he built it as a modular space. So the idea that you create the space and it can change, it can evolve, it can open, it can close, and basically serve the needs of whoever would be the next person in the space, or however you want to change the space up. So I think the intention was always there, that it could be whatever you imagine this glass box to be. And when he decided to move to Cape Town, it was the perfect time for us, because I just had a child, and after working in my own home for 3 years, it felt like it was the right next step to move out of my own home, move the studio out of my house, but into a space that feels like it was designed for us. So I always thank Roelof and say, thank you for spending 8 years of your life designing my perfect studio, and you so happen to live in it. That's the joke.
I love this quote. In between crystalline walls, we invite you to experience our central co-emerged studio and concept space. So it's a laboratory. It's a space where you can experiment. And how has the space changed the way that you make your garments?
I mean, we've got so much light. It's amazing. And it's all galvanized.
So everything's now galvanized as well.
I believe it's something called mind space. It's like small fish, big pond, big fish, small pond. Every time you open your space, it allows you, if you move into a bigger space, and bigger doesn't need to be physical. Bigger can mean decluttering. It can mean opening up. It opens your mind. A space, the architecture, the way that the place where you are being creative, that environment is so important. It's something that I never consciously realized growing up. But when I started working for myself and like doing more projects and play by myself, meaning I was out of my home already as my childhood home, I realized how important the environment is in a more conscious way for creating. So the idea that this space or the idea that Viviers is not just clothing, it's more a space of collaboration, a space for play, a space for experimentation, is really what I've always wanted. And I believe in manifesting, what you want, if you say it enough and you like do everything as if it's already there, before you know it, then you have created that. And Viviers Glass House, this space, it's the heart of the brand. It's the heart of what we as a team do. But it's also an open space where others, whether it's architects or other designers, interior designers, furniture designers, textile designers, visual artists, people like yourself who make beautiful films. It's a space where all of us can kind of meet and co-create. And that was the intention, I think, of Roelof in the first place, going back to intention when you're creating something. And clearly I picked up on that intention when we moved in here, because the space was designed with that kind of openness in mind. So
he may not have known it, but he was making the perfect studio for you. And I suppose in the same way that you said, this jacket doesn't fit me quite the way that I thought it would, I'm going to pass it now to someone else. This building can be seen in that same way.
It's like a custodian in a way. You start something with an intention That's what Rudolph did. And then, lucky me, lucky us, we had the chance to then, take it forward, pay it forward, and hopefully the studio will do the same to someone when I'm no longer there, or the team will go on with that. But it's really served us in such a beautiful way in terms of collaboration, creating in unity, the transparency, and the fact that, the client can also walk down and see where their garments are made. Like, it just all comes back to your intention.
Last few questions. I want to speak about your mother-in-law. Most people don't get along with their mother-in-law, but you have a very special connection with, is it Madeleine?
Madeleine
Anderson. And she is also a maker of textiles, but in a different way. Tell me a bit about her work.
Should I tell you about how Walter and I met?
Please. I'd love to hear that as well.
That's just a joke. So, my husband and I, he still teases me and said, I fell in love with his mother. And I got married to him because of his mother. Partly the truth. So Madeleine and I met because Walter and I quickly met randomly at a gallery, and he said, you're in fashion. Please, can you go and see my mom in Pretoria? She's a hand weaver. She's got this incredible skill. She's got talent, but, she doesn't necessarily know the industry. Can you go and see her and see, is there something? What is possible? So Sunday morning, Walter, at that point, we've just met each other, is working somewhere in Africa. I drove through to Pretoria, arrive, I meet Madeleine. Wonderful, gentle woman, shows me her incredible studio, which is a weaving studio. So 6 hand looms, the best of the best kind of, I think it's Swedish quality, if I'm speaking under correction, with a studio space full of light and full of yarns. And she showed me, and I was blown away because I knew nothing about weaving. Even as a student, you learn things, but you don't actually know. And she's such a special person also because of the quality of the yarn that she uses. So she taught me, you only use pure cotton, pure wool, mohair, linen, basta. That's it, okay? Because again, if you start with these kind of best quality raw materials, by the time that you've spent 3 weeks in weaving a couple of meters of fabric, you hope that fabric is good quality, right? You want it to last because you've put so much time into it.
Yeah.
So Madeleine, she studied fine arts. So she's, in her own capacity, always challenged the traditional kind of warp and weft and patterns that you typically find in the northern hemisphere. I think also living in South Africa and Africa, you're also exposed to African weaving, which is very exciting, like the Ghanaian kente cloths. So weaving is a part of our continent, but take that heritage, mix it with a fine artist and a quality snob and someone that's done many, many, many residents all over the world to see how it's done in other places. And that's where you meet Madeleine Anderson. So we're very lucky, like it's so amazing to have a mother-in-law that you love on a personal level, but also professionally that you can collaborate with, creating beautiful textiles. So Madeleine is also someone that doesn't throw away any good quality yarns and scraps and fabrics. So that very much fits into our philosophy of how things are made. So what we would do is we often use some of the off-cut and the leftover fabrics after we've cut a garment. There's always some pieces left, and then those pieces get prepared for weaving. So they would then go to Madeleine and they get woven into the textiles, and then these textiles are then pieces that we use in our collections. So
wow, I didn't know you could do that.
You can do anything. We've woven with old e-waste, like old chargers and old things, anything that can do this in length can be woven with. You can weave with nature, some sticks and stones. You can weave with wire, which is nice because then your whole piece can be sculpted and molded.
It gets a structure almost.
And I think that's where it comes back to the experimentation that you asked me about earlier. You weave with things that maybe is not traditionally seen as a first choice.
On the one hand, you use high-tech technology, 3D printing. And on the other hand, a lot of your garments are made in very traditional practices.
Duality.
Back to duality.
Future fossils.
Exactly. Are we seeing these traditional skills becoming lost?
The world's splitting. Those that are choosing to refocus on the hand and the human and the spirit behind a garment are completely going back to nature, going back to humanity as part of the creative process. And it's completely being revived, which is exciting in this new golden age of the hands and of nature. So I think there's a knowingness that we need to refocus our time on artisanal handmade skills for garments and textiles and everything that we surround ourselves with to go to be made in a slower way, because that's how you put your consciousness into something. That's how you consider something. If you work slower, you think about it more. You think about, is it a green little thread that I'm adding, or is it a brown one? So I think there's a nice revival, which is very exciting, and there's this transfer of skills and knowledge happening. For those of us that are interested, are like on a mission to find all the people like the Pretoria Weavers Guild who can teach us, who can train us. But you will only know if you ask. So it's something that it's an active act of research. At the same time, I'm really not scared of AI. I'm really not scared of what it can become, because again, it's about how you focus, what you put focus on. So if AI can be an assistant to you, I think AI is a reflection of our own consciousness. So again, if the world's splitting, you've got two kinds of consciousnesses. Those people that are using things to destroy the world, destruct the world for their own personal gain, they'll probably have a negative experience with AI. Those of us that are choosing to co-create with AI, but what we are putting into AI is positive and sincere, and keeping in mind that we want to do the better for humanity and our planet, we are having great experiences using AI to assist us with mundane tasks, and to also maybe even assist some of the old traditional tech skills, the traditional techniques. I think there's a great opportunity to collaborate between the ancient and the future.
Can AI design a garment?
Probably yes. I think from my understanding, I've explored it a little bit, like with playing with Midjourney and, ChatGPT in its most basic form, but not so much in the creative process. So from what I've seen, and that was maybe a year and a half ago, the last time that I really played with it, it's still quite flat and still quite one-dimensional in terms of generating an image or generating a design. But I think it's like you are what you eat. AI is what you feed it. If you already have an interesting concept in your head, and you don't have the time to do the thousands and thousands of hours of research, you can take your concept, you can fuse it with some historical research that maybe exists. And you can ask AI to assist you, to play and to kind of, show you possibilities. But I think it's more a place of exploration and play than using AI to design your collections. But I think we shouldn't be closed off to playing and like exploring the new technology that's available. That's again, that's part of innovation. And I think we've just entered such an incredible time of innovation, of new things that will come to the surface very quickly, including free power for all.
Yay.
Tesla did it years ago. We're still waiting, but I think we've officially opened. Yeah. We've officially entered that time.
Lezanne, what's your new collection going to be about?
I don't know yet.
What are you fascinated by? Where's your mind going?
My mind's in the golden age of innovation. So we're busy finishing our current winter collection. It's called Artificial. So, I play a little bit on why do we all need the little blue tick to validate who we are? Why do we need all this validation from the outside, from others? If you validate yourself, you don't need the blue tick. So it comes back to your heart. Validation through the heart. So that's what our new collection is about.
Wow.
So we in the process of launching, and that is for winter until later this year, September. I think the world's changing so rapidly. I can't tell you what I'm going to do next week or in 3 months from now.
How badly do we need clothes to protect us, to inspire us in this time that we are going through now?
So badly.
So bad.
Again, I really believe in what you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Who you surround yourself with, the space that you are in. And clothing is something that you wear on your body the whole day. You even sleep in clothes, some of us. I think it's incredibly powerful. I think it's incredibly important. And I think that's always something that I say to students is, does the world need another jacket? The quick answer is no. I listened to a nice talk at Design in Stellenbosch years ago, and the question was, this industrial designer sitting there, does the world need another chair? The quick answer is no. The more in-depth answer is, if your chair is offering something that is relevant, something that is making a change, something that is bringing joy. And to me, that's important with our clothing, at this point in time, is the power of it and how it can really, how it can transcend communities, how it can transcend economies if it's done with the right intention. So 17 people working on your garment, but who made the fabric? Who are the farmers? So yes, there is definitely a need for the right kind of clothing, the right kind of product, the right kind of design at this point in time, especially moving from the dark ages into the golden ages. We as creative people need to tap into our heart space, into our unofficial place of being, and assist one another through collaboration to create the world we want, because no one's going to do it for you. If you don't create the new world, a new way of being, the new garments, the new spaces that people want to be in, the world won't change.
Lezanne, thank you for sharing your ideas and your thinking. Every time we speak, I'm completely blown away by the way your mind works, the way that you're able to see opportunities with such optimism. I think there are few people that can take something and turn it into a garment that will last a lifetime, that has the power to change a person. And I feel like putting on your clothes has the ability to change people, and that's the most powerful thing you can do in this world. So thank you for your fashion. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And I'm sure you are going to be incredibly successful in the future. I can't wait to live in a future where there are leaders like you that are showing us how to live and how to find inspiration in the work that we do. So thank you.
Thank you, Justice. It's been so nice talking to you.
Okay.
I think it's something that's so important in our creative community is to have more of these. Next time we should have more people around the table. This kind of once a week breakfast, just breakfast talks.
Yeah.
Chat, inspire one another, come together as a creative community. Because I think at the end, the power again of two minds coming together. The kind of questions you asked today it comes with so much depth and research and understanding, and I thank you for that, because I can see the time that also went into that, and it really, the question also leads the answer.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Thanks, Lezanne. Amazing.